Awesome, man. I'm just do a quick intro, and I'm just going to get right to it.
Cool.
You're listening to episode number 15 of the AlaREIA Masterclass Podcast. What's going on, everybody? It's Trippe. I'm right here in Birmingham, Alabama. So glad you decided to join us today. We've got a really awesome guest we're going to get to in a second. Just wanted to kind of let you know a couple of things. I hope you're watching the daily REIA show that we've been doing. It's on our Facebook page. Our website is up and launched, AlaREIA.com, AlaREIA. So definitely go check that out, all our content, find out what our next meetings are and everything like that. And I'm really excited to announce, by the time you listen to this, we're going to be in full swing. We are going to the Huntsville, Alabama market in March, which I think you'll be listening to this in April. So it'll be ready to go in April. If you're in the Huntsville area listening to this, it's going to be really, really cool. Hope you reach out to us and find out when we're meeting. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce one of my friends in this business, one of my mentors in this business. Is just absolute one of the best guys in the whole world that I've ever known when it comes to real estate.
Hey,
Mr. Joe McCall.
What's up, world? How you doing, guys? Hey, Brian.
Joe, I'm so excited that you agreed to do this.
It's an honor to be on your show, man.
Man, we're trying to grow, and just being on here is going to help us a ton, and we really do appreciate you coming on.
I'm trying right now to look up on YouTube a Alabama chant. I was going to do Auburn, but...
you know better now.
Uh-huh. Okay, Rammer Jammer chant. Have you heard of that?
Of course. We sing it every time we win.
Oh, it's just a bunch of people cheering. Oh, never mind. I should have prepared for this in advance.
That's what we do, man. At least you didn't pull up Dixieland Delight.
Dixieland Delight? Whose song is that?
That's a song we used to sing at every game, and it got outlawed because we added our own kind of filthy lyrics to it. So,
really?
Up on your own free time.
Dixieland Delight? All right, anyway, man.
Let's talk about some real estate, man.
Yeah, for sure. Alabama's a great market.
Why do you say that?
Because not a lot of people know about it yet.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, a lot of people do know about it, but see, here's what's happening. A lot of the investors that are in California, New York, Washington, Oregon, they're going out there looking for cash flow real estate, right? They're looking for turnkey companies that give them really, really good returns on their money. Well, they for a couple years, they've been going to Texas, Ohio, Memphis, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Phoenix, but those prices are going up, and it's getting harder and harder to find good deals. And you talk to some of these people, and they're starting to look at Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, some of those southern states that are kind of like not discovered yet, quote unquote. And there's fantastic cash flowing deals there. Your numbers are really good. The economies are strong for the most part, the values are there, the rents are there, and you can get some incredible value that you can't get in the rest of the country. Does that make sense?
That's what I teach.
Mm-hmm.
Word for word, spot on.
Yeah. So one of my favorite strategies is finding the buyers first. Going out there and finding who are those buyers that are buying in other states outside of their own states, right? So you could go in, anybody can go right now and see who are all the buyers that are buying in Memphis, Tennessee, in Phoenix, in Columbus, Ohio, in Atlanta, Georgia, in Vegas, from outside of those states.
Yes.
And every single month, there's thousands of them. And you can go and you can send them letters. And you can send them a letter saying, hey, I see that you just purchased a property. These are professional letters, not yellow handwritten letters, but just something like, hey, I see that you're an investor. You bought a property in Phoenix. Have you ever considered Alabama? In Mobile, in Birmingham, in what's that other city? Tuscaloosa?
Huntsville, Montgomery.
Huntsville, Montgomery. Did you know we are the premier real estate investing company in Huntsville, Alabama right now? And we can consistently get deals that are between, I don't even know if you have to give numbers, but just let them know, like, listen, we've got some really smoking hot deals here. And if you are interested in talking to me about them, give me a call. I've sent thousands of those letters, and they work really, really well. You just got to make sure that that number you have on the letter actually goes to a real person. It goes to you, and you answer it. That's super important. But those are the best buyers in the world, Brian, because they're already comfortable with buying homes in other markets, right, outside of their own, and they will pay more. See, the worst buyers to get are the ones that are already buying deals in Birmingham, right?
That's right.
Alabama. The best ones who are not buying here yet, and they come to you, and you're the rainmaker. You're the one that can bring them the deals, and the property managers, and the contractors, and the lenders, and the insurance agents. You know, you can be their boots on the ground. They're willing to pay a premium for that, and so I think Alabama is a great market for the turnkey wholesaler right now.
That's awesome. That's a ton of awesome information. Joe, have you ever been to Birmingham? You ever been to Alabama?
No, I was invited to speak at a REIA in Mobile, and I don't remember if I went or not. I don't think I did. There's a guy, Lawrence Roberts, a friend of mine, who I think is in Mobile. Does that name ring a bell?
No, Mobile is a really long way from where we are.
Okay.
It's a 4-hour drive.
Is it really? Yeah, this guy's really cool. His name is Lawrence Roberts. He does a bunch of deals down there. We call him Law for short. Really cool guy. Big black guy. All his kids, he's really into football. He plays a lot. He coaches a lot. And his kids are just really doing well in football. So he, and I think he's also a pharmacist. The guy, I don't know how he does it. He's super busy. But yeah. I've not been to, I don't think I've been to Alabama, to answer your question. No.
We're going to get you to Birmingham.
Right on.
One of these days.
Right on.
Come down here. We're going to get you out here. Your good buddy Claude Diamond. I told you this the other day. Your good buddy Claude is coming.
Yeah, well,
we're going to get you there.
I hope you don't have anybody in your REIA who's easily offended. Because
Claude, man, I love his approach. It's simple. My biggest thing with him and what I've learned from him is, man, and maybe give me your take on this as well. How do you not spend 20, 30, 40 minutes on the phone with a seller?
Yeah.
You can easily do that. He's got the 3-minute timer that really forces you to think about time.
Well, that 3-minute timer is really important because you're in business to make money today, as he always says, right? And so you should know within the first 3 to 5 minutes whether they're ready to do a business with you today. So you should know, like within that first 3 or 4 minutes, do they have a house they really need to sell? Are they a buyer that really needs to buy a house soon? And totally giving them permission to say no. But you have to set the agenda up front on these calls. You need to make sure that the seller or the buyer, whoever you're talking to, knows that you're not just going to give a bunch of free information. You're not trying to sell anything. You're giving them permission to say no. And if they're ready, if there's some motivation, if they're ready to do business today, then you can spend more time with them and talk with them on the phone. But there's even times, I've got 20 sellers to call back, right? And I don't have time to spend to them and try to sell them on my lease purchase program or to try to convince them to discount their property to 60, 70 cents on the dollar. So I'm just going to get some basic information from them and pretend like, you know what, I've only got a few minutes. My phone's lighting up. I got a ton of deals on my plate right now. I can only buy a couple this month. So let me get some basic information from you. And let me just ask you a few questions to see if your house would even work for me or not. Right? And I'll send you some information and let's talk later. Having that whole thing, it's positioning and it's powerful because you're not begging for them. You're not begging for deals. You can never chase a seller. You always got to make them chase you. And the faster you chase them, the faster they'll run. So it's positioning. So sometimes I just got them on the phone and I'll just ask some basic questions because I'm busy. And then I'll either send them an offer or send them a letter or something in an email and in the mail and follow up later if they're still interested. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great information. And Joe, so you mentioned something earlier about lease options. Is lease option where you started?
Yeah. Well, let me take that back.
how did you get started in real estate?
I started doing everything the wrong way. Like I was trying to be a jack of all trades and I was a master of none, as they say, right? So I was trying to do rehabbing, landlording, like buy and hold, subject to wholesaling and lease options and all this stuff. And, I was really struggling because I wasn't focused. I was going in 10 different directions and I was confusing sellers. I was confused myself, right? So it wasn't until my back was against the wall in like 2008, 2009, and I decided, you know what, I've got to start making money. And, everything was falling apart around me. We were losing our house to a short sale, foreclosure. I was losing rental properties and stuff. Everything was bad. I was having major problems. So anyway, I said, I have a serious cash flow problem and I need to figure this out. And I had never thought of wholesaling as being sexy. I thought, only beginners do wholesaling. And of course I was a beginner, but I didn't want to be considered one. And then, so I decided I'm going to figure this out. And so I decided to buy one more course. And I said, I'm just going to do what this guy says to do. And I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to do what he says to do. So I didn't like his postcards, but I sent them anyway. I didn't like his scripts. I didn't like his contracts. I didn't like the way he found buyers. I thought, everybody must be doing that. I'm just going to be doing what everybody else is doing. But guess what? It started working. On my first deal, I made $12,500. And I basically made all the mistakes possible almost. And it still did the deal. And that's when I realized, this works. If I just do what these guys say to do and stop questioning it and stop trying to wait until all my questions are answered or all my I's are dotted and all my T's are crossed, if I just do the stupid stuff, it'll work. And so it did. And so I started doing a lot of wholesaling. And then about early 2009, I got frustrated with throwing away so many leads because they didn't have any equity. Or if they did, they weren't willing to share any of it with me. So I liked lease options. I'd always liked lease options because you can control property without buying it. You can own it. You can control without owning it. So I started offering lease options to sellers instead. And instead of flipping the contracts to cash buyer investors, I started flipping the contracts to tenant buyers instead. And so that's when it really broke free for me. And so within about 3 months of flipping lease options, I started making more money than I was doing that part-time than I was in my full-time job. And I was an engineer. I was making probably $80,000 a year, which is pretty good back then in 2009. And so I was making more money doing these deals part-time. And I thought, man, this is great. And that's when I quit my job. It was spring of 2009.
So a lot of what you just said, I heard you just say that recently on REI in your car.
Yeah, did I?
You just had an episode where you just did that. So I listened to Joe. If you guys don't know, you should know. If you're listening to this, you need to stop, pause it, and go research Joe McCall. REI in your car, Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast. When did you first know that you wanted to start a podcast?
Yeah.
And why did you do it?
I've always been interested in marketing, right? Because we're not in the real estate business. We're in the marketing business. And I've always been a student of marketing. And when I was still working my job, there was this podcast on the radio called Internet Business Mastery. And in fact, they're still on. They're one of the oldest marketing business podcasts around. And there was another podcast called I Love Marketing. And I just knew that I learned early on that without marketing, you're dead. Like everything is marketing and marketing is everything. And so I was fascinated by this concept idea of having a podcast. And Claude Diamond, who was one of my mentors early on too, he was doing a ton of YouTube videos. And he talked a lot about doing marketing to get clients, coaching clients, and sellers and buyers. So I was talking to Sean Terry. Sean Terry is another podcast called Flip to Freedom. And he had just started his podcast, and his format was really similar to the guys at Internet Business Mastery. So I called up Sean, and I said, hey, man, I love your podcast. I didn't know who he was, but he gave away his cell phone number on his podcast. And so anyway, I called him up and we talked for a couple hours, and I thought, man, this is really cool. And so I said, I'm thinking about starting a podcast too. And at the time, there was not a lot of real estate investing podcasts out there. Now there is a lot. And I really like yours, Brian, because it's specific and local to Alabama, which I think is huge. So, but anyway, he said, you should do a podcast called Real Estate Investing Wizards, because there were some books back then that are really popular for the stock market called Stock Market Wizards or something like that. I didn't like the word wizard, so I thought, well, I'm going to do a podcast called Real Estate Investing Mastery, like Internet Business Mastery, Real Estate Investing Mastery. And nobody at the time was doing interviews either. So I decided I'm going to do interviews. I'm going to interview other real estate investing guys. And so that started. It was 2011, so 6 years ago. I knew this guy, Alex Youngblood, and whenever we would talk on the phone, it was like fun talking to him. We talk about real estate. He was doing a lot of deals. And I knew that if we did a podcast together, it would be engaging. People would like it. People would laugh. People would enjoy it. We could actually talk about real deals because he was doing deals and I was doing deals. So we started that. We did the podcast for, I'm not kidding, for like 5 years before we even ever met. We did I met Alex late last year, about 6 months ago, for the first time. And we've been doing the podcast for about 5 or 6 years. And so, yeah, it's been cool. I mean, we have listeners in over 170 different countries. We've got a couple million, over 2 million downloads, which is a lot. And it's been fun, man. I enjoy sitting in front of this microphone and just sharing stories and talking about real estate, you know?
Yeah. Joe, I'm going to have to edit this part out. You're going to have to bear with me for a second. I'm almost at full capacity on my computer.
Well, I have the recording here. I'm recording it here.
Okay.
We can just use mine.
Just keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just keep. I'll edit that part out.
All right.
So, what do you think about? I mean, so your podcast. Did you know at the time that your podcast was gonna kind of dwarf or morph into what it has? I mean, I feel like it's been really, really successful, right?
Oh, I knew if I would be consistent with it and consistently do it regularly, it was going to do well. It might take some time, but I knew if I was going to be consistently doing it every week, it would do well. And so I just was committed at the beginning. I'm not going to quit, and I'm not going to give up. And then, I'm competitive, so I like looking at the rankings in iTunes, and when I would see other people get ahead of me in the rankings, I'm like, those idiots, I'm gonna do more and beat them. And just being competitive, it's fun. And then iTunes, I can't figure out the rankings anyway. It doesn't make any sense because some podcasts that are brand new that I know have fewer listeners than I do will rank higher than mine. So there's no rhyme or reason to the iTunes rankings, so they don't really mean anything at all. But I just enjoy doing it. And the cool thing is I get to meet some amazing people like you from all that are doing deals all over the country. And I get to find out like what's working for you in your market and what's not working in California. And, a lot of times you can see like what happens in California or Phoenix or Florida is sometimes can be a precursor to what's happening in the rest of the country. Sometimes they're 3 to 6 months ahead. So if you can see that the market's starting to fall or plateau in California, which it is, then well, in the next year it's going to start plateauing in the Midwest as well. So having that kind of, and every market is different, every market's unique, but that's what's fun to me. I enjoy that.
You said you were kind of plugging away at it and you were going to stay consistent with it. How long did it take before you really kind of decided in your mind that it was worth doing?
The podcast. Well,
did you ever think that you might give up, I guess?
That's a good question. I don't think I did. Because about the same time, like I was flipping lease options, and a lot of people started asking me how to do that, and they started asking me to teach them how to flip lease options. And so I created a course. I called it Wholesaling Lease Options, and so I started teaching people how to do that. And I knew that having a podcast would give me an audience. And so I was traveling a lot, going to real estate clubs and teaching lease options. And I knew that I didn't like traveling too much. So if I had a podcast, I could have an audience that I could sell and I could teach this stuff to them. And I really love coaching. I talk about it a lot. Coaching is an awesome business. I get to still do deals and I get to coach people. So I'm still doing deals on the side, but probably 75-85% of my time and income comes from coaching. And I really love helping people. And, I can tell you story after story for hours of students that I've helped quit their job, spend more time with their family, do deals while traveling around. There's a guy right now, I'm trying to get an interview with him, who is in Africa as a missionary doing deals in the United States to support his missionary work in Africa, and he's wholesaling deals virtually. And I found this guy through a friend or my brother actually, and he gives me I don't know, a lot of credit. I haven't talked to the guy yet, but my brother's telling me that he owes a lot of his success to wholesaling properties while in Africa, to listening to my podcast and getting my courses and stuff like that, which is awesome.
Your podcast, it's the very first real estate podcast I ever started listening to when I first started doing real estate. And what attracted me to it was there's so much great information for free.
Yeah.
100% free. And it's just like, nobody's holding back secrets. It's just coming straight out and just telling you, hey, here's what's working. Here's how to do it. And so I said this, I was on your podcast. And I said it then. I really do appreciate what you've done for that guy. Like, he's in Africa that you don't even know. Have you ever thought about how many countless people that are actually out there doing deals that you've never even met or known?
It's humbling. I mean, it really is. A few months ago, there was this guy who called me. He's a student at Mizzou. Go Tigers. Just kidding. I'm not a Mizzou fan. I went to Iowa State University, and how can you be an Iowa State fan? Because they never win at anything. But, okay, anyway, he's a student finance major at University of Missouri, and he's probably 20 years old or something. And he's a super smart kid, and he loves listening to podcasts. And he's listening to my real estate investing podcast, and he's working. His parents make him work. He has to have a job and go to school if his parents are going to pay for school, right? So he doesn't need the money, but his parents are making him work, which is awesome, right? Nope, I don't have any problem with that. But he hates his job. He's like bagging groceries or something at a grocery store. But he wants to do real estate. So he called me and said, Joe, I just want to let you know, I just did a deal and made $15,000. I did what you said from the podcast, from your free stuff. I sent out a bunch of texts. I found a seller. I sent a bunch of text messages to landlords. I found a landlord that wanted to sell his property. I made him an offer over the phone. He said yes. So I scrambled. I didn't know what to do. I went and I bought a contract at Office Max, or Staples or whatever, like those generic contracts that you can buy. And he bought one of those and he used that, get it under contract, and then he assigned the contract to another investor. He put an ad in Craigslist to find the buyer. He assigned it to that buyer. He didn't even have an assignment contract. His end buyer helped him with that, and he assigned the contract for $15,000. And he was like, "This is pretty cool, Joe." And I was so impressed. Like, here's a guy, he can't afford the course, but he's going to make way more money in real estate than he is in college. And I asked him, with his degree, I said, no, obviously don't quit school, but how much are you going to make as a finance major in whatever job you're going to get? And he said, I don't know, probably $65,000 a year, right? So you take $65,000, which is insane to me because I graduated in 2000, so 17 years ago, with a civil engineering major. And the salaries are about the same then 17 years ago as they are today. I mean, how depressing is that? All right, so 65,000 divided by 12. He's going to be making about $5,400 a month, working 56 gross, working 50, 60 hours a week, pushing paper. And, you know, the only calluses he's going to get are from the staplers, you know? And I'm like, and I don't get any calluses either, but like, and sitting in a cubicle? What? And so he gets it, and he's like, I totally get it. And he's going to finish school, but and he's really stressed out about upsetting his parents. So he wants to do, but anyway, remember my point. The point of the whole thing is, here's a guy doesn't got any money to invest in education yet, or his course, but he takes massive action, imperfect action, but it's massive, and he's making money doing deals in a small little college town. So if he can do it in a small college town, then there's really no excuses for anybody.
No doubt. Joe, as we start to kind of wrap stuff up a little bit, let me ask you this, man. Just take a scope for a second of the last 10 years of your life. And just talk for a second about the power of real estate. You were kind of talking about it in that story there. Just the power of real estate, what it's done for you in your life.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I love real estate as much as I love business, right? And I love marketing, I love business. And I think of all the businesses out there, the easiest way to make money is in real estate. It like levels the playing field for everybody, because you can get into single-family homes, and eventually, if you wanted, you can get into commercial properties and big apartment buildings and all that. But I just remember reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the whole concept of buying assets that generate cash, that put cash into your wallet instead of taking money out. The whole concept of thinking of assets versus liabilities, the whole cash flow quadrant stuff. And I think you mentioned this on our podcast. The best book was not the first one, was the second one, right? The cash flow quadrant. And so that was mine as well. But that rocked my world. Thinking about being a smarter investor, not working for the man, not being an employee. Because, man, I was terrified. If I got fired, you know, and I was working, I had some good jobs. And because I was an engineer, I knew I could get a job anywhere in the country. If I did get fired, I may not be able to get a job in St. Louis, but I could move and get a job somewhere else. But who wants to do that? But like, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, if I got fired, I might get a couple weeks of severance pay or something, but I would be hungry. I could lose my house. I might have to go on food stamps. My destiny was in the hands of my employer. My destiny, my family's safety and protection, and me providing for my family was dependent on my employer. Or were they going to downsize? Are they going to fire me after this job is over? What are they going to put me next? Are they going to require me to move to a job? Because, you know, we're building large power plants and stuff like that. You can only build so many power plants in St. Louis, Missouri. So the next job, are they going to tell me you got to go live in Huntsville, Alabama, or we're going to let you go, right? Yeah. And who would want to go to Huntsville, Alabama? I'm just kidding. No, that was a terrible joke. I'm so sorry I said that. I should have said like Des Moines, Iowa. Like they could have said you're going to have to go to Des Moines, Iowa. And like, who wants to go to Des Moines, Iowa? I used to live there, by the way. So
there are more rocket scientists in Huntsville, Alabama than anywhere else.
Are there really? I'm sure it's a beautiful place.
It's okay. No, but I think it's really important for people to hear that, especially if there are new people listening, to understand that you just said that you love business more, yeah. But real estate, it seemed like, was the easiest.
I think so. I don't think so. I know so.
Anybody can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another thing, kind of to play off your point, is you don't have to be the best in order to make a really good living. It's not, like being a basketball player or being something where you have to be the best in the world. So many people can win. You don't have to. If you win, someone else doesn't have to lose. Everybody can win. And that's why I think anybody can do it.
That's a real good point. You can make a difference in the community. You can help people. You can revitalize communities, and you can make a great money doing it.
That's right. Joe, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, Brian.
Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on. Tell everybody if they don't know already, how can they get a hold of you and watch what you're doing or listen to what you're doing?
Well, the best way is, I'll give you two websites. My podcast is realestateinvestingmastery.com. Realestateinvestingmastery.com. You can look me up in iTunes, listen to the podcast. I do some episodes like live like this from my computer, and I do a lot of them from my car while I drive. Once in a while I'll drive, and I like to record my thoughts, and so I talk about, and that's fun. I like doing that. And then joemccall.com is my other site, and I'm in the middle of remodeling all my websites. So I think you are too right now, Brian. But so it's if you look at it now, and there's decent stuff on there, but it's going to be a lot simpler and cleaner probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks. But
you're right about when this comes out. So definitely check out joemccall.com, realestateinvestingmastery.com. Joe, you're the best, man.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Roll Tide!
All right, that's a wrap, man.
Awesome. See you guys.
Thank you, Joe. Bye.
Cool, man. I'll send